are you in this class? Animal science? What a waste of time. You gotta have it for your, somebody told you gotta have it. Why are you here? Cassie, why are you here?
Because I need it for my major.
Because you need it for your major. What major are you? What? General agriculture? What are you gonna do with that?
I'm gonna be an ag teacher.
Be an ag teacher, okay? Pretty useful class then for that. Why are you here?
I'm from a major too.
You need it for your major? What's your major?
Agriculture.
Ag business. This is Dinky Merced College. How do you know this is gonna transfer to wherever you're gonna go?
I took the requirements for University I'm attempting to.
It's what?
They're one of the requirements for the university.
What university are you gonna go to?
Chico State.
Chico State. And how do you know that they will accept that at Chico State? Or that it's a requirement?
Counselor and I took myself.
Yeah, the counselor could be an idiot.
I took myself as well.
Who's the counselor? Which one you talk to?
I don't know.
See, I don't even know. Okay, well, how can you check yourself?
Go up to the website on the university and get the requirements.
What's the website called?
Chico State University.
There's my sis.org as well.
sis.org is where you should be going. And this class, for those of you that are just starting out or don't know, this class is transferable to any of the schools in the state of California that have agriculture. This is general animal science. This is one of the most transferable classes. Most of the classes that I teach are numbered under 49. If they're numbered under 49, they're transferable classes. And if you go on assist.org, you will see that most of my classes are transferable classes, and particularly animal science 10, animal science 13, animal science used to be 11, now it's going to be number 14, Agri 10. Most of the classes that I teach are very transferable. So, what does that mean? It's a transferable class. It's going to count at UC Davis, Chico, Fresno State, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Pomona, Stanislaus State. What do you think that means?
You already have credit in the class, you don't have to take it.
Okay, it's going to transfer, yes, I get that part. What else does that mean?
You don't have to take it there.
What?
You don't have to.
You don't have to take it there, so it's just like being at that university taking it, right? So, in other words, it's not supposed to be underwater basket weaving or online running. I would love, that just boggles my mind that you could take a class called online running, PE class. That is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. A lot of the online classes, I believe, there's no accountability. There's nobody, kids tell me all the time, well, I'm not good at math, so Susie's gonna take it for me, and we'll work it out. That's not the case in this class. We have some midterms, we have some terms quizzes. You need to be prepared for those. You need to understand when they are. I tell you up front when they are. I told you on Wednesday that our first terms quiz is next Wednesday, the 27th. So you should be preparing to make sure you know those terms. They're all pretty easy terms. Most of you, if you had any high school ag or anything, you've heard the terms before. So you just have to spend a little time, make sure you know the terms. You have to invest in the class. And I am pretty gray-haired, and I have children, and I know my son is finally going to graduate from Stanislaus State, and he is very intelligent. He's smarter than I am. But if he's 28 or 29, he's just not going to graduate. You tell me all the time, well, I'm just, I'm not going to do it this semester. I'm not this, I'm not that. you know, sooner or later, you guys will all get old enough and mature enough and realize that having a college degree makes a significant impact in your life, your standard of living, the quality of your life. That's just the way it is today in America. And unless you want to work for something below $20 an hour, you want to try to make sure that you invest your time and try to get a degree, because it's going to drastically affect your earning power and how far you can get in life. There are so many jobs that when you go to the door, if you don't have a college degree, it says, no, do not enter. You ever play Monopoly? Can't go past go? Okay, there's just some of those things, that's just the way they are. Whether you think they're bullshit or not, that's the way it is. So you can bloody your head and pound on that brick wall on the outside, it's not going to change anything. So I encourage you to try to invest now. Don't think it's going to go away. Don't think it's going to get better. Don't think that, you know, being on your phone 24/7 is more important than getting a college degree, because it's not. Okay, Paige. Hugo.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Sarah Baskin.
Here.
Dakota.
Here.
There. Maria. Viviana.
Here.
Jeremy. Here. Catherine. Tiffany. David. Michael Aikman. Erica Espinoza. There. Paige. Garrett. Mark Gonzalez. Robert Gonzalez. Meet. Bobby. Sarah. Marcia, Lynn. Marcia. Alina Lai. Erica Martin. Marissa McIntyre.
Here.
Abigail Mello. Lauren Navarro. Erica Perez. Alejandro. Jennifer. Mary.
Here.
Corinne Sherman. Sandra Smith. Sheldon. Salvador Wood. Say.
Here.
Alejandra Rico. Madeline.
Here.
Two. Arena Yano.
Here.
Okay, ready to call? Okay, first terms quiz is next Wednesday. Everybody should have the syllabus and the terms. You should be reading along with me in the first chapter or two in the textbook. Again, this is a very good textbook. Lots of people are finding it fairly reasonable in different locations. Okay, so we'll start off talking a little bit about the economics of animal agriculture. Animal agriculture is one of those industries which is always up and down. Why is it always up and down, price-wise? Yeah, we're impacted by the environment, the weather, aren't we? So we can have droughts, or we could have what happened in South Dakota last year where they had this freak storm in late September, early October, and they lost 20-some thousand head of beef cattle. Some storms got a few already this year. What else impacts animal agriculture a lot? What impacts the dairy industry here in California?
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. So why is the dairy industry always on this 3-year cycle of great prices doing real good, and right now they're at prices that are like $13 to $14 a hundredweight for milk? If you don't know, milk, dairymen get paid for their milk by the 100 pounds of milk. So every 100 pounds of milk right now is worth, let's say, $14. By California statistics, they say that break even on 100 pounds of milk is $17. So right now they're losing $3 per 100 pounds of milk. That's not a very good scenario, is it? Particularly when you have 3,000 cows, a lot of areas in Merced County have 3,000 cows. The average is about 1,200. So their feed bill could be like $1 million a month. And they're going backwards $3 per 100 pounds. And a lot of our dairy cows produce 80 pounds of milk in Merced County a day. 80 pounds of milk. So why do we have this volatile thing where we're always on a roller coaster? Some years, last year, a year and a half ago, they were making $24 to $25 per hundred. So they were making $7 above their costs. They were making it in.
So is that because of the big boom in the alternatives to dairy milk?
No, might have a slight impact, but not really.
Isn't it the price is really high, so they push their cows to produce more milk, and then once they start producing more milk, the price goes down again because there's such an abundance of it?
Yes, pretty much you got hit the nail on the head. What happens is the price is so good, so they put a lot more cows in. And they improve their facilities, so the cows are more comfortable, they're all producing more milk. So pretty soon, all this milk drives the price down. Here they're oversupplying again, and they're always on that cycle. They can't control themselves. And then you've got more of a world market now, and this is impacting all the species. You have a global market. Everybody knows what's going on. All they need is a cell phone, and they know what the markets are in the U.S., they know what they are in China, they know what they are everywhere. And so sometimes those foreign markets are buying, sometimes they're not buying. Sometimes Russia is mad at us, so they don't buy any poultry, and they're one of our big poultry buyers. So then all of a sudden our market drops a whole bunch. Or they use this trick. Oh, we just got a big load shipment of your poultry, and it's got salmonella. Right now in India, some of our loads of almonds, they're saying they got E. coli, and they're not wanting to fulfill the contract and pay. So the last couple of months, almond prices have been tumbling. And it's because the foreign markets all the markets are kind of shaky right now. The stock market's been dropping. China's market has really been plunky. And it's been affecting these commodities that we ship overseas. So the economics of animal agriculture is a pretty important thing. It's an area where we are always positive trade. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. If we can get one. Okay, so the United States, we have our major exports in animal agriculture is poultry. And poultry is a very important thing in our society. Why is poultry such an important thing? my class, it's okay to talk, because, you know, I wanna see if you have a little brain up there. Why is poultry an important thing?
Pigs.
The population that doesn't consume pork or beef,
What's that?
the population that doesn't consume pork or beef.
Faster to raise themselves.
Every one of you, on average, eats about 120 pounds of poultry a year. It's probably about 100 of poultry, and another 20 is turkey. So 120 pounds. Why do you eat any of this stuff?
Cheaper.
Other than taste good, you need it for what?
Protein?
Protein. Right now, this time of year, when you're getting a cold, what do they always say? Feed a cold, starve the flu. Okay? You get a cold, you want to eat soup, but you want to eat protein with it. Because protein really helps you fight the cold. So we're consuming 120 pounds per person. How many pounds of beef are we consuming? Probably about 55. Swine, about 50. Lamb, better be eating a lot of that. Who's had lamb in here, period? Okay, Dr. Wool Growers had lamb stew. That's my favorite right there. But here's the bad news. 1 pound per year, per person. Cost is pretty high. Most people don't know how to cook it. You go to the store and you get sticker shock when you go to buy some. That's why it's so low. So this is a pretty big deal. Why are we eating so much poultry? It's cheap. To get this 5-6 pound bird, it only takes about 5 weeks. And here's the other big thing. It only takes about 1.7 pounds of feed per pound. That's the feed conversion. That's really an inexpensive protein. Most of the time don't have any taste unless you camouflage it with a whole bunch of stuff on it. What's it taste like? Chicken. Wow. Well, it tastes like a nice juicy steak. But it's inexpensive. It's pretty lean and healthy for you, isn't it? See a lot of people eating chicken. So there's a lot of positive things about it, but the number one reason you're eating so much of it is cost. And so we export a lot of this because we can mass produce it in the U.S. We do a great job of producing broiler meat, poultry meat. And in the last 30 years, we've gone from doing it in 12 weeks. Now we do it in 5 weeks to get it to market. We get that little chick, and in 5 weeks, it's a 5 or 6 pound broiler. And it's pretty healthy for you, so it's really popular. Pork, we do a great job of producing pork. Of these up here, it's the second most efficient one. So to produce pork, we can do it in about 160 days, and we can do it at about a 2.7 to 1 pound of gain feed conversion. So this is the feed conversion. So that's pretty good. So we export lots of pork. Processed dairy products, we're a big producer of milk, so we process a lot of those products. One of the things that we're big into exporting now is cheese, butter, and powder. Powder is probably one of the biggest things, one of the biggest dairy products that we export. Hillmar Cheese is just building a big plant in Turlock on West Main, and they are gonna be exporting lots of powder. There's a huge California Dairies plant right there on West Main. They load 4 train cars at a time of powder. What's powder?
Powdered milk, powdered water.
Yes, powdered milk. But you can make a lot of other things out of it. But it's kind of a byproduct of making butter. So if they do powder, they make butter as well. And so Hillmar Cheese is diversifying out of just the cheese plant now. They have a cheese plant there in Hillmar. They have one in Dalhart, Texas. Now they're gonna move into butter and powder. And they've been hiring people for that plant here recently. Beef and veal. So California, we're a dairy state, but we're also a beef state because a byproduct of dairy is that when those cows don't produce enough milk, they're gonna become beef. And those calves, those bull calves, all become beef. So that's another big area that we produce a lot of here in California. Cattle hides. Why do we export most hides that we produce in the U.S. from our beef carcasses and from lamb carcasses end up overseas? Why do you think that is? And we end up buying them back in the form of shoes, belts, purses, all kinds of little products. Exactly, but the cost of doing all that hand labor that's required to turn it into products, it's a lot cheaper to do that overseas. Just even tanning the hides, finishing the hides is a lot cheaper overseas than it is here. So when it comes to agriculture, a real important concept to remember is that the balance of trade, the value of exports minus the value of imports, we are very good for the balance of trade. In most areas of our economy, we buy a lot more than we export. But in animal agriculture and in agriculture in general, we export more. We produce more than we consume. That's one of the few areas of our economy that works out that way. And we keep having more that we can export. Why is that? Labor's a lot cheaper in other countries. Wouldn't they be able to grow food cheaper in other countries? What? We have a great climate here, but there are people that have been to China and tell me that China has a bunch of San Joaquin valleys in China. We only have one San Joaquin valley.
Because of our education and research.
Because of our education and research. Good answer. We, since the establishment of the U.S., we put money into land-grant colleges. In California, it's UC Davis. Started out in Berkeley. And at UC Davis, we do all kinds of cutting-edge research in agriculture. Anywhere from plant to animal agriculture. And we're trying to come up with new products, new and better dairy cattle, new and better tomato plants, new and better strawberries to improve our agriculture and produce more with the same amount of land all the time.
So very similar to like companies that move out of the country because labor is cheaper. Why don't farmers from the United States move to China since you say they have plenty of San Joaquin valleys?
They haven't gone as far as China, But a lot of farmers from California farm in the Imperial Valley and farm in Mexico. So if you are a bilingual and you can speak Spanish and English and you get a college degree, that is a great asset, particularly if you're going to live in California. Because we have one of my good friends from Santa Maria, went to Cal Poly. He speaks fluent Spanish and English. He works for a big strawberry company over here in Watsonville. And then he flies somewhere almost every week. He's either in Mexico or in the Imperial Valley. And they have a huge strawberry operation in Mexico where they grow this time of year, they grow a lot of strawberries that come here to the mainland. So we are farming a lot in other places where we can get the stuff easily into our market area. But most ag commodities are perishable crops. They got to be close to the consumer. Otherwise, they're not preserved for a long period of time. But there is some of that going on. You know, one of our biggest export markets for beef, for example, is Japan. They're pretty far away, but we can fly it there pretty fast. They're one of our big cherry buyers. A lot of our products that are high quality, the Japanese have a tendency to import a lot of those. So U.S. as a whole is a trade deficit nation, and that is not a good thing. We're buying more than we sell. That's not good for our economy. Positive thing is that in agriculture, we export more than we import. And that kind of helps offset that deficit that we get from most other areas. You know, the areas that we've really excelled at forever has been agriculture. We're pretty good in technology. We're constantly trying. One of the biggest successes of the U.S. has always been to try to innovate, to have the next best thing, to attract the brightest people here so that we can innovate and come up with those really good widgets that people want to buy. In this case, the last 25, 30 years, it's been dominated by that cell phone that you guys all have. And most of you are, what, 18, 19, 20 years old? When I started school here 20 years ago, I didn't have a cell phone. I had just a great Jim Dandy life. I think some of you would just have a freaking heart attack if somebody took your cell phone away. You would die. 20 years ago, I didn't have one. The first person in my family that had a cell phone was my wife. I bought one for her birthday because she's an insurance agent and she drives around quite a bit. And so I bought her one to have in her car, and it was the size of a shoebox and plugged into her lighter, and was a pretty big thing. Now she has the iPhone 6S or whatever the hell it is, and totally different. And she can get to her files, all of her business files, from her car on her iPhone when she's at a client's place, which is a pretty big deal. And by the way, is a very good career for, I have a lot of young ladies in my classes, and most of them are always wondering what can I do for a career. My wife is a commercial lines insurance agent, and she tells me all the time, I don't understand why more people aren't going into insurance, because I deal with adjusters every day that have no idea what the hell they're talking about. I ask them, well, do you have any agricultural experience? Well, I used to ride on the bus and go by a farm when I was a kid. And they're making these calls on whether or not they're going to take this account all the time. And they have no idea what they're talking about. And those are people that make, you know, Those are $100,000 jobs, working for insurance companies. And being an insurance agent, anybody got any idea what they make?
6 figures.
What?
Doesn't it 6 figures?
Yeah, I know some of them make over like 200,000. But you have to be a hustler, you have to be self-motivated. You have to have a good personality for it, you have to be outgoing and like to talk to people. You know, if you wanna be in a box and nobody talk to you, then you wanna be something else, not a salesperson. Okay, so that is a really good career, and we need people with animal backgrounds and agricultural backgrounds in that area because there's huge demand. Everybody has to have insurance. My college roommate from college was a poultry major, and now he has a big agency up by Williams, California, and does really well in the insurance field. Okay, California agriculture. What can you tell me about California agriculture? Anything? We don't have any. We have Disneyland, beaches, Orange County. What can you tell me about California agriculture? Anything?
Largest producer of dairy.
Largest producer of dairy. What is the #1 agricultural state? California. I lived in Missouri for like 6 or 7 years, and when I would tell people, well, California is the #1 ag state, they'd go, oh no, you're full of shit. Here's the really the big thing. Second place is less than half of what we produce. We're #1, but we're not just #1, we're double second place. So agriculture is very significant in the state of California.
Other states that produce agriculture, are they as diverse in their products?
No. Missouri had about 60-some, 70 different commodities that they produced. What's the limiting factor?
Weather.
Weather. Right now, it's, I talked to my son on the way to school this morning, it's 10 degrees, and it's frozen. You're not gonna be growing very much when it's 10 degrees and frozen. That's the big deal. We have microclimates all over California that right now, today, we have, in El Centro, we're producing a lot of the lettuce, broccoli, a lot of those crops that we eat this time of year, they're being grown in Southern California somewhere. So we have climates throughout the year that we can produce ag commodities all year long. We are in greenhouses right now growing tomatoes. One of our big industries in California is the tomato paste industry. Well, they've got greenhouses full of seedlings right now that they have started, that are gonna start to be planted come March 1st. So we've got all kinds of things going on right now. And the big thing was, to answer her question, we have over 400 different crops, livestock commodities, that are produced on about 80,500 farms in the state of California. So we're a very diverse state with lots of diverse climates that can produce lots of different things. Might be surprised to know that we produce coffee in California. Most of you think coffee comes from Juan Valdez from Colombia. We have a coffee farm in Santa Barbara, Galicia. We have all kinds of new commodities that we're growing in California. About $44.7 billion produced directly from agriculture, products off the farm. From miniature watermelons, pistachios, almonds, walnuts, dairy, tomatoes, beef, milk, being a lot of the big ones. This, produced from ag-related industries, this number here can get up in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't tell you that because there's so much conjecture and speculation in that number. But some people say, you know, this is off the farm product. This number here could be several $100 billion. When you take into account trucking and all the allied things that are important to moving all those commodities and further processing all those commodities. So if we look at beef cattle, for example, what's a related industry? Well, feed, nutrition, sales, shipping, those are all things that touch beef cattle. So a feedlot like Harris Ranch in Kalinga, you know, they've got anywhere from 100 to 150,000 head in there every single day. And their feed bill is millions and millions of dollars a month. And those commodities come in from all over. Corn comes from the Midwest, cottonseed from the West, soy from the Midwest, hay from all over the West. Vet, they have their own vet, like they're at Harris Ranch. They buy pharmaceuticals from all over the world. They have their own slaughterhouse in Selma. Those pelts are rendered all over. So a lot of allied businesses that touch beef. There's so many commodities. You look out later in the semester how many commodities you get from a carcass. It's pretty unreal. So, if you look at the importance of animal agriculture in California, you would think, you know, we're not really in an ideal location to produce animals. Why aren't we in a very good location to produce animals? How many people live in California? How many people live in California? Yeah, I always say 40 million, it's actually like 39 something. There's a lot of people live in California. When you have a lot of people, do they like smelling cow shit and having flies and dust and all the things associated with large animal operations? No. So we are big in dairy. A lot of the really big beef operations are in the Midwest. Hog operations are in Iowa. Poultry operations are in the southern part of the United States. So animal agriculture in California is dairy industry is really big. Poultry is pretty big. Hog, sheep, those are very minor kind of specialty things in California. So our number one thing is milk. So dairying, we have been the number one dairy state for about the last 20 years. And we have a really good climate for dairy cows. Our barns can be pretty open. And the biggest thing we have to worry about is not the winter, but the summertime. Our biggest issue is heat, getting them too hot. So we have to use a lot of fans. We use a lot of, we used to use misters. Now we use soakers. So a cow goes into a feed bunk and the water just soaks him right over the rib cage. And then he goes back, then that cow goes back to her free stall and the fans blow on her and it chills her. As soon as she gets warm again, she goes over to the feed bunk and eats and gets soaked again. How does all that stuff work? Somebody out there watching them and turning it on and off?
Technology.
What's that?
Sensors.
Yes, so it's all temperature controlled. Once the temperature hits 75, most of that stuff comes on. Every 10 degrees it goes up, then those soakers, instead of working every 15 minutes, they come on every 10 minutes. If the temperature goes up more, they might come on every 5 minutes. So that's all controlled by sensors. So if we look at our top 10 commodities, you'll see that we've got milk and cream, then grapes, then almonds. And grapes and almonds have been kind of switching back and forth lately. The price was so good this last fall that I bet 2015 almonds might move into second place. Right now they're having a little bit of a tumble. Cattle and calves, nursery, strawberries, hay, lettuce, walnuts, and tomatoes. This tomatoes is mostly tomato paste. So we have a lot of big canneries in California. Probably about 70 to 80% of all the tomato paste produced in the world is produced right here in California. So between Ingomar, Morningstar, Hunts, and Oakdale, we have a lot of big tomato processors here in California. And all of those tomatoes are started in greenhouses and transplanted into the field. So they get about a 2.5 month head start by starting them in a greenhouse. Okay, so where's the sheep and hog industry located? Well, hogs are in Iowa. What else is Iowa known for? What?
Potatoes.
Potatoes?
Corn.
You're thinking of Idaho.
Corn.
Corn. Okay, Iowa is I have a friend that works for Pioneer. Pioneer is one of the big seed companies in the world. And he used to be in charge of overseas sales for Pioneer of corn, for all the salesmen all over the world. The state of Iowa is as big as almost the whole rest of the world when it comes to corn. That's how big Iowa, and their production per acre is so high. So hogs are in Iowa because they're the #1 corn state. There's a freak thing that happened about 30 years ago, and North Carolina has a lot of hogs. That's the only one that doesn't make any sense. Iowa makes sense. Minnesota is right above Iowa, so they have a lot of corn. Illinois is right next door, they have a lot of corn. Indiana is kind of right next door. They're right in the corn belt. How does North Carolina get in there? They're getting just pounded today with a huge snowstorm. And North Carolina is kind of on the fringes there of this huge storm that's hitting the East Coast. How did all these hogs end up in North Carolina? Well, they just happened to have a couple of senators and a bunch of congressmen that decided that that would be a good thing if they put in a bunch of facilities for hogs, and they relaxed the environmental requirements for putting in some really large hog farms. Because hogs in North Carolina doesn't make much sense. Hogs in Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri make sense. So we almost have no hogs in California. Why don't we have hogs in California? No, we have a lot of places we could have them. We passed Prop 2 a few years ago. We had very little hogs to begin with, so that's why the animal rights people came here and worked on Prop 2 in California, because they knew they would get very little resistance, because we're very small in laying hen operations and we're very small in hog operations. So they passed this Prop 2 that said a chicken had to be able to put its wings out and turn around, and that a sow can't be in a pen that she can't turn around. So they passed this Proposition 2 and really forever decreased how many hogs or poultry we can ever have in the state of California, because people are just going to go other places. Sheep, commercial sheep that we raise that you end up buying in the grocery store are sheep that are grazed in large western states that have a lot of land and they can raise sheep. And those states are like Texas, California, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho. Those are the big grazing states. Sheep numbers have really declined in the U.S. We used to have about 50 million sheep in the U.S. Now we have about 5 or 6 million. How many of you want to go live in a little trailer and roam out in Wyoming herding 1,000 head of sheep, 2,000 head of sheep by yourself with some dogs? That's why the sheep numbers are really dwindling. A lot of these guys get like Peruvian herders to come on a visa for like 3 to 5 years to be herders. Because in Peru they can't make any money, so if they come here, at least they can make some money. But it's not a lifestyle that a lot of people want to do. Okay, let's quit there for today. Everybody should have their term. Anybody not have their term? You have your term. You could be studying for next Wednesday's term quiz. Check on that textbook. I had somebody tell me they bought it for